to it. This is really the best way that I can think of to hang out on a soon to be a stormy Wednesday and Thursday in New Mexico. So welcome to all of you, and I look forward to hanging out for 45, 50 minutes and bring you some thoughts and ideas that I can bring you from my experience in business and in entrepreneurship, and to help move you forward to a new way of looking at business and entrepreneurship. I'm curious if we can. Well, I know two of you. How many of you, if you could put up, raise your hand and comment as to if you're already in business? I'm just curious to see how many are already business owners or soon to be business owners. One. I see, we have a shy group today. Gotcha. Okay, that's a good start. So let's get this party started. I have a lot to share with you, and I'm looking forward to having a good dialogue after we're done to be able to answer some of your questions and hopefully point you in the right way of going where you're going with your business. My name is AJ Mirabedini. I'm, as Cecilia said, I'm the founder of Entrepreneurial Advisory Group, plus a couple of other businesses that I'm involved with. Like you, I'm maybe not like you, but I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business 1987, and I've been an entrepreneurial oriented CEO leader really since then. I'm the future you. I'm the, not only by age, because I'm sure I'm the future of most of you by age, but also the future of you in business, and the fact that the lessons that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made are all part of things that I think you probably all will as you get involved in business. I've been there, I've done that. I've had great success in my career, and I've had great failure in my career, which is all par for the course, I think, when it comes to entrepreneurship. Is you're going to journey up and down, and part of what I'm here to do today is to kind of guide you as to those ups and downs as they come. I'm a member of the New Mexico Angels. I'm a new Mexican, only been here for a year. And as soon as I got here, I wanted to get involved in organizations that were working with ideas and small business and startups. And the New Mexico Angels, I think, is one of the best organizations that I've been involved with in that way. I am an investor in SMBs, and SMBs are small, medium businesses. I've invested in them throughout my career, and I'm presently an investor in several. I've built and sold multiple businesses over my career, and I'm considered to be an expert at founder-led organizations, particularly. Entrepreneurships and small business take all kinds of shapes and forms, and founder-led ones are very nuanced because they carry a lot of interesting dimensions of the founders in them. I'm an operating partner to private equity groups. By that, I mean private equity groups work with me, and I work with them in doing assessments of businesses that they're looking to purchase or sell. I act as an interim leader at times for companies that are in transition, and I've actually operated businesses that were owned as part of a private equity portfolio. I'm a fractional CEO to numerous businesses that need interim fractional leadership and guidance in their businesses, and we work with them in achieving that. And I'm probably in the industry known as a turnaround expert, and what that means is getting involved in businesses that aren't where they want to be and where they ought to be, and helping them turn around their destination so they're heading in a more positive direction, whether that be financially or otherwise. And I spend most of my time with businesses that need advocation. I'm an entrepreneurial advocate in the fact that most of my career in the last 20 years has been supporting entrepreneurs as a group. We're a pretty underserved class of businesses and people. and there's not too many big organizations that get involved in trying to support and lead entrepreneurships. And unlike me, like you, when I started my businesses, nobody handed me an operating manual that would help me understand exactly what I should be doing and not doing. And there's a lot of stuff that you can learn in a textbook or in an educational setting, but there's some hard knocks that only those of us that have been there in the trenches can really talk about and guide people going forward. Let me move this to the next slide. Uh-oh. Cecilia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm frozen up.
Uh-oh.
I know. Hate when this happens.
It's okay.
The screen's frozen, unfortunately.
I can try to pull up your slides and switch them for you if you want.
Oh, wait, I got it. Got it
Okay.
working. Oh, the final piece about me is I'm what I consider myself to be a reverse business engineer. And we'll talk about that more as we go, and really what that means and really how that presents itself in the work that I do. So this webinar, this day that we're going to spend together is going to be really more guidance and words of wisdom that I can bring to you through the lens of the work that I've done and through the views that I've had in the business world. I have a deep entrepreneurial focus with the 3 businesses that I'm involved with. Entrepreneurial Advisory Group is an advisory service that we provide support and advice to investors and owners. Virtual CEO is an interim entrepreneurial leadership support group that provides seed level support for businesses that need the help. And then finally, our latest and newest business is called Entrepreneurs RX, where we have studied and we assess businesses as to where they're at and where they need to go. And we provide a lot of entrepreneurial prescriptions on where they are and where they need to be. So what do? We consult, we coach, and we study entrepreneurs as part of AJM Advisory Group. We're business turnaround experts. We're fractional leaders, and we do a lot of research with academia, with research groups, with big organizations, and define and teach entrepreneurial business best practices, EBBB. I like that acronym because there's clearly best practices for how to do what we do. And then we support investors to create maximum return on investment on the work that they've done with the companies that they own. We talked about reverse engineering your success, and I want to start there. I want to start at the end and work my way forward, because I think you'll see the logic and the approach that we take is coming from this place. Before I get into this, I want to give you my perspective that I get involved in businesses when they're ready to transition. The transitioning is either to be sold, to close, to acquire, to be acquired, to merge, and whatever else. And when you're at that point and you're looking at the body of work that you're representing, you do a lot of wishful thinking. I wish we hadn't. I wish it was this. I wish it was that. And so I've begun this whole process by reverse engineering everything. As I said to you, we just moved to New Mexico. And before we moved, as we sold our house that we sold to come here, we spent all this time making that house look spectacular. It was painted, it was clean, it was, beautiful, music playing, candles. I mean, we did everything we could to get that house sold. And And I asked myself and I asked my wife, why don't we have our house like this all the time? Why don't we live in the best version of this life and this business today? And instead of waiting until we're ready to sell it. So I promise you that all of you, if you're in business or if you're going to get in business, are going to exit your business, however you exit your business, whether you sell it, whether you transition it to someone else, a family member, a partner, or you just quit. You're going to leave this business at some point. So run it like you're about to sell it. That to me is the simplest way of really talking about how you want to set up an organization. Back your way into the present. So think to yourself, a year from now, 5 years from now, what do you want this business to look like? How do you want it to look like? How should it look like? What do you need to do today to help you get to that point? And plan now. What do you have to lose? So if you plan today and you create the shape and the form of a business that you appreciate and it's thriving, you're in a best place you can be, whether you keep it for the rest of your life or you don't. Define areas that are not your forte. And that doesn't mean define areas that aren't your forte and make them your forte, but be honest with yourself as to really what are you up for? What skills do you have? What do you want out of this business? And what do you want out of this process? And be really clear on that. And if we finish this webinar and you get nothing out of it other than this next statement of define success on your terms, this is like the biggest piece of advice that I can give anybody who's considering getting into business, because being in business is not a one size fits all. There's no cookie cutter version of being in business. Your business is your business. It's how you want it to be. It's for the values that you have, for the priorities that you have. And if you don't define those now, and you don't define what success means to you now, the business will define it for you, and it might not be what you want. So having that definition of success in your own terms, based on how much time do you want to spend, how much money do you want to make, what are your values, what kind of people do you want to do business with, where do you want to do business, do you want to be creative? I mean, just defining it now is really, really important, because that way you're driving it, the business isn't driving you. And trust me, businesses drive their owners way too often when they're not paying attention. Identify your weaknesses and offset them. And offsetting them really doesn't mean offset them with learning more. It might be offset them by adding someone, by focusing on something else. But by knowing your weakness, you can then focus on your strengths, which is the key in being able to have a thriving business that's fueled on you. And think about, if you were to sell your business, what would a potential buyer see? What would they ask? And if you're aware of that, you can then be creating a business that is outside focused and can give you the kind of metrics and the kind of successes that you want to have. Cecilia, I noticed we have 2 comments in chats. Oh, there you go. I love that. Got it. So no questions, no worries. So let's move forward. When we look at businesses, we look at an ecosystem. We look at a living, breathing entity, very much the way we look at your health. Everybody has heard this notion that there are 5 pillars of health. You got to get plenty of sleep. You got to get the right nutrition. You got to exercise. Stress can't be manageable. It has to be manageable. And you have to be in a good social relationships to be able to feed yourself. When you do all of these 5 things and you do them well, then you can consider yourself clinically healthy. However, if you get 12 hours of sleep and you get up and have donuts, that doesn't cut it. Just because you get enough sleep, you can't do it that way. If you exercise, but then get 2 hours of sleep, that's not healthy either. If you're stressing all the time, but you eat really well and you sleep really well and you exercise, that's still not healthy. And if you don't have good relationships and you don't have good social outlets, but you sleep well, you have good nutrition, you exercise, and you're not stressed, you're still not healthy. So the moral of the story is it's an ecosystem. It's a multi-dimensional approach to create health. because you are a living, breathing, changing organism, and that's what it takes. Your business is no different. Your business is also a living, breathing entity that has critical aspects to it that needs your support and needs to have holistic approach, a systematic approach to it in order for it to succeed. We've identified these into these 7 critical pillars: your finances, your people, and by your people, I mean the people you surround yourself with in your business, including yourself, your products and services, whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's a widget, whether it's consulting, whatever it is, whatever you're transferring, whatever you're creating value, how you market your services is huge, and the sales process. And then go on from that to business systems and processes that help you automate and regulate your business going forward. And last, but certainly not least, you are the single most influential factor in the success and failure of your business. And you need to really have a good sense of yourself when you're trying to get a sense for your business. And now we're going to get into these pillars independently, individually, and be able to figure out where we want to go with it. Finances are the number one challenge for entrepreneurs. The number one reason why small businesses go out of business is because they don't have the right financial structures. Finances is a lot more than money in the bank. And that's a really big distinction that a lot of us as entrepreneurs don't make. Unless you come from the financial background, which very few entrepreneurs do, unless you're a CPA, wealth manager, investor, or whatever else. If you are a scientist, if you're an artist, if you're a candle maker, if you're a mechanic, whatever you are, your strong suit usually is not finance. And as entrepreneurs, finance becomes one of our big boogeymen. It becomes one of our scary things that hang over our shoulder. If we have investors, they care about what your finances look like. If you have a loan from a bank, they want to know how you're doing. If you want to, be able to transfer your business to your family members, you need to be able to understand your finances. So financial management is really what we're talking about. Financial management, meaning the metrics of being able to understand the numbers that are your business. Budgeting is a huge factor. Working with private equity, when we look at buying a business, we want a business that has 2 years in the future budgets. So you would not only have your budget for the year 2022, you would also have a budget for your business for 2023. And we also want to have at least 5 years backwards. So we want to see what your budgets were the last 5 years to understand what your expectations were and what you've missed and what you've hit and really where your numbers truly are. If you don't have a budget, you're driving blind. If you don't have a budget, you don't have a target. You're driving without a roadmap. You're driving without Siri working or without having any sense as to where north, south, east, and west is. And it'll be almost a certain way for you to go out of business. Cash flow management is another big sticking point for a lot of businesses. Cash does not mean profit. Revenue does not mean profit, but you need cash to be able to sustain yourself over time. So by understanding your cash flow, understanding where you're at today, where you're going to be tomorrow and 90 days from now, and to be able to manage that and to have good forecasting and to be able to expedite an invoice, to be able to push an expense and whatever else to work within your cash flow management is essential. It's critical for you to be able to drive your business to where you want it to go. Then access to capital is the gunpowder that allows you to be able to fire at will at the targets that you need to do to achieve your objectives. And access to capital takes many shapes. As an investor, that's certainly one aspect, is to find investors that are willing to invest in your business and they give you operating capital. The SBA, Small Business Administration in the US, is another good way where you can get operating business loans from them and to be able to kind of grow your business from there. Credit cards home equity loans, grandma, best friend. There's lots of ways to have access to capital. And that doesn't mean you use that capital, but you need to have access to it. You need to have resources to go to when you need to go. If you're going to scale, you need to have fuel to be able to scale. Cost of goods is what the services you have, the products you sell, there's a cost involved with that. If you're not aware of what that is, and you're only looking at the top line revenue, you're missing a really key aspect that you can control and that affects your bottom line profitability. Continuity income channels are an area that can make a huge difference in a small business. And what they are extensions of the work that you do, but that are repetitive, that are continuing. Subscription models, membership models, for example, are ways of being able to have continuous income coming in without you having to go and sell something to create revenue. And adding that to a business then allows you to have a good baseline of revenue to be able to then grow your business with additional revenue that you create from selling the services that you have. And then lowering your expenses. Expenses are within your control, whether it's the cost of goods, whether it's labor, whether it's insurance, whether it's rent. If you're not aware of what your expenses are and aren't constantly looking at cutting some expense, you're making a mistake. Big corporations have a commitment of reducing expenses 10% on average on an annual basis. So they always are looking for something that they can cut to be able to lower their expenses. So you got to make sure on an ongoing basis you're aware of that. But one of the greatest things that's not on this list that I want you to understand is that if finance is not your thing, it's okay. Many of us as entrepreneurs think because it's our business, we got to do everything with it. And because it's our money, oh my goodness, then it's so close to our chest, we can't let somebody else do it. And that's a huge mistake that you can make. Whether you work with a CPA firm, whether you actually hire a bookkeeper, whether you have a CFO, if you have others that live and breathe finances, it gives you comfort, it gives you controls, and it gives you the sense of going the right direction at the right time, and then you can leave it alone. You can back away from it. All of our finances are done by accounting firms. So they receive all of our transactions, they do all of our books, they do all of our P&Ls, our balance sheets, our taxes, and everything else. And on a monthly basis, I have a meeting with them to review everything. They ask questions, they make suggestions, and I just act on the experts' advice. And I cannot stress this to you enough in almost every area, but certainly in finance, because finance is black and white. It fits within certain categories and certain measures that make it functional. So bottom line, you must know, understand, lead by your numbers. Your numbers are your lifeline to success. And if you don't understand them, if you don't immerse yourself in them, you're going to be, again, walking and driving blind without understanding really where to go with it. Let's move on to people, your people. Your people are the people that you surround yourself with if you get to the point of not being a solopreneur. Solopreneur is obviously someone that is doing everything themselves. If you're going to grow, you're going to go through people. And entrepreneurs are notoriously bad hires. We hire people we like. We hire when we're desperate. We hire out of force. We hire without qualifications. We hire blindly and reactively. That is a horrible waste of investment. And what you find is that you then go through this revolving door of people, certainly in a market like this, when it's a buyer's market, when employees can choose their opportunities. You need to have a much better system for hiring people. Timing is huge. A lot of entrepreneurs hire when they're super busy, when they're swamped. And because they're swamped, they hire the first living soul that walks in because they don't really have time to go through the whole process. And instead, you need to be clear to your business as to when you need who. You need to have an avatar of who you're hiring. Who is this person? What's their education level? What's their availability? Are they willing to work remote? Can they have the right technology to work remote? If you define that and you have this bench of people that you've contacted with, friends, family, extensions that are capable of filling that, that makes your job of hiring that much easier. Then firing people. How you fire is critical because there's legal ramifications to how you fire. And if you fire emotionally, you dig yourself into a hole. And if you don't plan your firing, you catch yourself in dark areas where you can't get the kind of support that you need. And by not planning firing and you doing it reactively, that again gets you into a bad spot where you're backtracking to get stuff out. When you hire people, you got to empower people. And as entrepreneurs, we suck at that. We think we're the smartest, wisest, cleverest individual around, and we refuse to let somebody else do something that we think they shouldn't do it. If that's who you're hiring the wrong person. You need to hire people that you trust, and you need to empower them to take you places that you can't take. And if you do that, and if you monitor that, and if you train that, you'll go quite a bit ways down the road with it. Timing of your hiring, as I said, is really critical, that you hire when the time is right, rather than trying to do it in a hurry. Lots of way of compensating people. And if you don't have models that fit within your financial models, then you're going to be just negotiating blindly, hoping to get someone. But you need to know, again, what your tolerances are and what your business can support. And when you hire people, you got to train them. And that doesn't mean you train them. That means they need additional training. If you invest in your people, they will invest back in you. And then you can be assured that you're creating the quality of employee that can sustain you over the long haul. And talent assessment is a big need for entrepreneurs, because again, we hire our friends, we hire our buddies, we hire our roommates, we hire our cousin, we hire our wife's hairdresser. Whatever we do, we doing it whimsically. And there are so many ways now that you can do talent assessment, that you can have personality profiling, that you can have deep insight into who you're hiring, that then makes your hiring much more effective. And your people are your business. And if you have good people, you have a good business. If you don't have good people working for you, you don't have a good business. So let's move on to your products and services. Every business is obviously selling something. And most of us as entrepreneurs come from that place, that we're good at something that we did for someone else. And we figure if we go do it on our own, we will be that much more effective at it. But these are some of the questions that I think you need to really discuss with yourself as you look at your product. Is it viable? Is it viable today? Is there enough market in this market to be able to support and service you? What's your value proposition? Why you? What is it that makes your value so worthwhile that people are going to invest in your services and product? And value isn't price. That's obviously a different category. Value is, what do they get? What's in it for them? What is it that they will experience by using your products and services? Quality control is the name of the game anymore. And especially if you're building things, if you're building assets, if you're building products, bad products do far more harm than good products do help. So make sure you have quality and you can manage it. Track your margins. Margins are the delta between what your expenses and what your cost of good is. And you got to constantly be looking at growing that by driving your costs down or increasing your prices. Increasing your prices, by the way, is the simplest way of increasing your revenue and your profitability. And a lot of entrepreneurs are really hesitant in raising their prices. I get my haircut by a barber who's been charging $18 for a man's haircut for the last 20 years. And I'm like, charge me more, raise your prices. If people don't want you, it's worth it, because if you get fewer customers at a higher price, you still have the same revenue, you just don't have the same wear and tear. So be clear on pricing and really where you go with it. The diversity of your products is important. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't limit yourself to one thing or a couple of things that if the market dries up on that, goodness, the economy right now with the shortages in semiconductors and products and goods is exactly where it's at. If you only sold one thing and your goods aren't there, you're out of business, which is a real problem. You have to look at lifetime value of your services and your products. So people that buy your stuff, you don't want them to buy one thing. You want them to buy over their lifetime. And part of the way of doing that is to provide good customer support, which in this market, in this day and age, with the technologies available, is essential. People have to like how they work with you. And if they don't, doesn't matter how good your product is. And have a sales strategy, which we'll get into later, and make sure you're competitive. Understand your competition and understand really where you stand against your competition. Once you have good products and services, now you're looking at marketing. And marketing in business is everything. Marketing is business and business is marketing, if you think about it. And too many of us as entrepreneurs feel like it's us being marketed, it's our personality, our identity, and we get too mired in it. My suggestion to you is identify your lane. If you're not a marketer, get the heck out of marketing. Stay in your lane. There are so many resources right now that can provide good marketing services to you that will outperform anything you can do. Get out of the way, have expectations, and let them do their thing. You've got to have market insight, though. You've got to know, is the market interested in your product? How many are there? What's the database? What's the age demographic? And by knowing that insight, then you can make sure you're marketing to the right people. Avoid doing the latest, greatest itis. And by this, I mean the marketing space is so changing so quickly and so rapidly that if you try to keep up with the next newest thing, and you don't have the resources to do it, usually it catches up to you. If you have a formula, if you have a medium that is working, use it up. And make sure that you have good USPs. USPs is unique selling points. So unique selling points, the easiest one is price. If you sell the same product as everybody else and you're cheaper, that's a unique selling point. But rarely can that be the case because everybody has the same level of cost in what they do. It could be your service, it could be your process, it could be your payment methodology, it could be your engagement. Define a unique selling point and stick with it and really put it out front. Copy means how you describe your marketing, how you describe your goods. Make sure that is well done. Make sure that it's not talking about you, but talking about them. Help them understand the value proposition and what you're going to get done, and make sure that you communicate using the right words. And then have intimacy with your customers. And this is a real big button for me, because intimacy with a customer is knowing what they want, knowing them as well as you know yourself, knowing them from their lens and trying to connect with them and communicate with them on their terms, not necessarily on your terms. And if you have that relationship, personally or professionally, that's the best kind of relationships you'll have, and you'll have sustainable success with your marketing. Database is king. I mean, as Meta, as Amazon, as Google, all of them. I mean, it's all about data anymore. And there's so many ways of capturing that data. And when you have good data, you need to engage with it, and you need to work within your database and really build that up as a channel. Not constantly looking at bringing new people into your database, even though you want to do that. Your most greatest focus needs to be engaging with your database, which creates the best return on your investment. Be consistent and look at evergreen strategies. Have campaigns that run automatically all the time. There are so many tools right now in creating funnels and creating campaigns that will automatically run 24/7 behind the scene, engaging, communicating, emailing, following up, presenting, and everything else. Definitely want to plug into that and have something that can work without you having to work at it. And then make sure you have enough resources to get this thing done. Make sure you have enough funds, enough time, and enough expertise to get it done. And again, remember, everything in business is marketing. We're at 45 minutes, so I'm going to kind of rush through the rest of this so we can spend some time catching up and asking and answering questions. Sales, you have to have a commitment to letting others sell for you. You have to have a sales process that there's a beginning, middle, and end, that the people that are selling for you can understand what that is and can follow it. As people come and go, it's the same process and it doesn't change as you add people. You got to have good compensation plans and commission plans that will fuel a salesperson to want to keep growing. And you don't want to cap that normally. You want to let them make as much money as they can, as long as they're making you money. Hire hungry people, and invest in the resources that they need to be able to do the work they want to do. Certainly CRMs are a good resource for them, but there's a lot of tools that enable salespeople to really do their jobs better. Make sure you have sales goals and you hold really tight to that, and you hold people accountable to meet the sales goals, even if you're doing the selling. If you don't have a goal, then it's arbitrary and you can miss it and it doesn't really matter. You need it to matter. Inspect what you expect. Again, whether it's yourself or you have other people selling for you, the expectation needs to be upfront and you need to inspect it every step of the way. Your culture is huge, and making it fun is huge, which is all part of your culture. Your operating systems allow your business to become sustainable and scalable because it's a repeated process, freeing you guys, entrepreneurs, to do the things that you want to do. CRM systems, relationship management systems, help operate that. There's all kinds of good methodology that you can document how you do certain things. You got to have well-established policies, created that can help you get to where you need to get to, and your procedures and your checks and balances are always built in. It's hardwired so it doesn't change. And a really simple solution that I tell a lot of entrepreneurs to do is, if you have a staff of 5, 3, whatever your number may be now or into the future, and you have people doing very specific work, have them do the steps that they do in their project and record it on Zoom, on one of the many tools that are out there for you to record what you're doing, and for them to record the process, so then you have it encapsulated, that if you lose that employee or you add a new employee, they can just watch the training and see how it's done in real time. And that way you have a system that is operating the business. You're not operating the business, which is a huge part of it. And last but not least, you are the 400-pound gorilla in this thing. You are the single biggest factor in the success and failure of your business. Your vision as to really what do you want from this thing. Your life balance. Are you happy? Are you stressed? Are you not spending time with your family? Are you not, you have a lot of other things to focus on. I just got a puppy, and the little thing is sweet as all dickens, but my goodness, my focus has gone to him, and I'm finding myself distracted all the time. What are your abilities? Honestly, what are you good at and what do you suck at? And you got to be able to define that, and you got to be able to know that, and you got to be able to live by that. Self-doubt is the killer of good businesses. If you don't believe yourself, and if you doubt yourself, you're going to undermine yourself. And your time, we're limited, and really the commodity in this day and age is time more than money, because if you have enough time and you can manage your time well, you can get things done, and then all of the other previous things, life balance, focus, abilities, weaknesses, your vision, can all be attended to proportionately within the balance of your system. And you have to be in charge of change management, because if nothing else is guaranteed in business, is change. Things are going to constantly change, and you have to be able to change with it. You have to be able to lead your business from point A to point B effectively and consistently. And not on this list, but your ego is huge, because if your ego is too big and you think you're the smartest person in the world, you're going to undermine the people you hire. If your ego is beaten up and you're going to look at everyone else for guidance, it suddenly is going to hamper you. So be honest with yourself and define your success and stay consistent with what you want to get done. So these are my final words of wisdom that we can certainly go through them quickly, but I mean, they're going to be for you to be able to look at down the road if you want to download this and be able to see it later. But they're a combination of all the things that I just said to you, and a whole bunch more that I think would be good for you to just kind of remind yourself as you go through your day-to-day and create your business. As I'm wrapping this thing up, I asked our team to put together something that I could offer you to be able to help you. So our team at Entrepreneurs RX has a really robust business health checkup that will allow you to be able to assess, we'll be able to help you assess where you're at in your business, what are your challenges, what's hampering you, and to be able to help you go forward approaching the right way. So you can scan this QR code or go to that domain, entrepreneursrx.com, and you'll be invited to partake in our health checkup, and you'll get a set of responses that will help you figure out really where you're at and where you need to go. So that's our pillars, and I would very much enjoy and look forward to having an exchange and seeing what we can do to be able to help you go forward. Cecilia, if you wanna do that and pose any questions, I'll be glad to answer it. If not, we can talk about something else.